Remand, also known as pre-trial detention, preventive detention, or provisional detention, is the process of detaining a person until their trial after they have been arrested and charged with an offense. A person who is on remand is held in a prison or detention center or held under house arrest. Varying terminology is used, but remand is generally used in common law jurisdictions and preventive detention elsewhere. However, in the United States, remand is rare except in official documents and kept in custody until trial is used in the media and even by judges and lawyers in addressing the public. Detention before charge is referred to as custody and continued detention after conviction is referred to as imprisonment. Because imprisonment without trial is contrary to the presumption of innocence, pretrial detention in liberal democracies is usually subject to safeguards and restrictions. Typically, a suspect will be remanded only if it is likely that he or she could commit a serious crime, interfere with the investigation, or fail to come to the trial. In the majority of court cases, the suspect will not be in detention while awaiting trial, often with restrictions such as bail. Research on pre-trial detention in the United States has found that pre-trial detention increases the likelihood of convictions, primarily because individuals who would otherwise be acquitted or have their charges dropped enter guilty pleas. The pre-charge detention period is the period of time during which an individual can be held and questioned by police prior to being charged with an offense. Not all countries have such a concept, and in those that do, the period for which a person may be detained without charge varies by jurisdiction. The prohibition of prolonged detention without charge, habeas corpus, was first introduced in England about a century after the 1215 Magna Carta. The use of habeas corpus ad subjudiendum in 1305 was cited by William Blackstone. Under Article 8 of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Basic Freedoms of the Czech Republic, which has the same legal standing as the Czech Constitution, a suspect must be immediately familiarized with the grounds of detention, must be interviewed and within 48 hours either released or charged and handed over to a court. The court then has a further 24 hours either to order a custody or to release the person detained. Detailed rules of detention are included in the Criminal Procedural Code. The police may arrest and detain a suspect after obtaining prosecutor's consent. In an urgent case, the police may detain a suspect without the consent. In both cases, however, the police detention may take place only when grounds for pre-trial detention exist. The statutory limits of 48 plus 24 hours must be complied with, and reaching the time limit should always trigger immediate release. Unless a court has ordered pre-trial custody, anybody may detain a person who was caught while perpetrating a crime or immediately after it, when capturing of the perpetrator is necessary to either ascertain the perpetrator's identity or to prevent the perpetrator from escaping or to secure evidence. The perpetrator must immediately be handed over to the police, or when that is not possible, detention of the perpetrator must be immediately reported to the police. In the United States, a person is protected by the federal Constitution from being held in prison unlawfully. The right to have one's detention reviewed by a judge is called habeas corpus. The U.S. Constitution states that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. A declaration of a state of emergency can suspend the right to habeas corpus. Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. The Sixth Amendment requires criminal defendants to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation. The U.S. Bill of Rights thus grants some protection against being held without criminal charge, subject to the court's interpretation of what due process means. Federal authorities have also exercised the power to arrest people on the basis of being a material witness. Involuntary commitment of the mentally ill is another category of detention without criminal prosecution, but the right of habeas corpus still applies. The scope of such detentions is also limited by the Bill of Rights. The executive's military powers have been used to justify holding enemy combatants as prisoners of war, unlawful combatants, and civilian internees. The latter two practices have been controversial, especially with regard to the indefinite detention implied by uncertainty as to when the war on terror might be declared to have ended. Administrative detention, a term applied to many of these categories, is also used to imprison illegal immigrants. In Swedish law, häktning is a pre-trial supervision measure, where a suspect can be jailed for crimes that,